Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Aaron Boma here. I serve as a military specialist for Carleton County. I'm going to give you a closer look at the invasion of Poland in Blitzkrieg. Of course, when the war starts in 1939, September 1st, 1939, with the German-Slovak border being overrun with 53 divisions supported by 1,600 aircraft, they crossed the German and Slovak borders into Poland in a massive pincer movement. Plan White, directed by General Walter von Brauchitsch, aims to totally paralyze Poland's 24 divisions by swift encirclement, thus cutting their lines of supply and communication. While Poland mobilizes its full strength, its forces in action, lacking both air and armored support, are largely placed on the country's borders. They are quickly overrun, and reinforcements often arrive too late to halt the German attacks. So certainly, what I want to show you tonight too is the amount of numbers. Okay, I mean the German, these are the numbers of the Wehrmacht. The Heer, in 1939, 3.7 million. Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, 400,000, and jumping next year to 1.2 million. Kriegsmarine at the start maybe 50,000, and then of course it would jump next year in 1940 to 250,000. Luftwaffe, the Waffen SS, 35,000. 35,000 Waffen SS at the time. In total, 4.2 million, 4,220,000 in the start of the war under German arms. That's the Wehrmacht in total. Amazing numbers. Poland has roughly about 1 million, and that 1 million, that 1 million is mainly infantry, and those infantry numbers have some of them, most of their tanks are inside these units, and they're basically infantry support tanks. They have maybe about 700 tanks when the Germans have about over 3,000. September 2nd, ultimatums are delivered by Britain and France to Germany, demanding its immediate withdrawal from Poland. Okay, so that's the next phase. So the Polish army, 1 million in soldiers, much of it was not mobilized by September 1st, as the Polish government advised they were advised, of course, by the British and the French to mobilize before then. Constantly hoped that the war would be resolved, at least for the time being. Less than half of the Polish armed forces had been mobilized by 1st September, and only one quarter, 250,000, were fully equipped and in assigned positions when hostilities commenced. So, some roughly what they have for tanks, their own design of 7TP, which had a German 6-pounder gun, a British 6-pounder gun. That is one of their main indigenously designed tanks, which were capable of destroying any German armor, even the heaviest Panzer IVs, but they're terribly mobilized. They're terribly placed inside infantry units, which, so it's amazing the amount of equipment that they do have. It's poorly placed and poorly deployed. Of course, they had a few relatively modern, imported designs, such as 50 of the Renault R35 tanks, 38 Vickers E tanks from the British. Of the 700 odd tanks remaining, 102 were obsolete First World War tanks, Renault FT tanks, and not much better than armored cars. 300, roughly about 600 tankettes, TKS, which are basically lightly armored vehicles. They call them tankettes. That's what they were. At least these designs were. So 700 tanks. But much of them were out of date, obsolete. The Renault FT-17. The First World War, And the most modern ones, of course, were some of their own design, where they were quickly overrun and poorly placed. You have the Germans, the Luftwaffe, and the Wehrmacht run the armored pincer movements, moving in line themselves in connection with each other. And this is going on in encirclement movements across Poland. And the Polish forces are quickly, certainly on the borders, are overrun. You have the German army equipped with just units of tanks, and they are mobile anywhere from Panzer I's, Panzer II's, heavier Panzer III's, and maybe even a few Panzer IV's, but they were more small in quantity because they were still being mass produced. Most of the force, the Germans even had some Czech designs, which were highly capable. But much of the German tank force was up until 1941 as Panzer I's and II's. Here is the 7TP. It's a 7-ton Polish tank. It was a Polish light tank of the Second World War, designed from the British Vickers 6-ton, and of course had the 6-pounder gun. A standard tank of the Polish Army during 1939 invasion of Poland. Its production did not exceed 150 vehicles. Its chassis was also designed as an artillery tractor, so it would actually pull artillery to battlefield positions, whatnot. So here we have some more of course, these are Hitler's forces on moving, or they're about to move into Poland, and then on this date, and continuing dates. Roughly, it took about 2 weeks for the Polish army to be mainly defeated, but it took about a month to have the whole countryside that was under the German side in German hands. So, of course, September 3rd, Britain and France declare war on Nazi Germany after their ultimatums regarding the invasion of Poland, which did expire. So, Australia and New Zealand also declare war. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain forms a war cabinet, which includes prominent anti-appeasers, First Lord of the Admiralty Winston Churchill, and Secretary for the Dominions Anthony Eden, which is, of course, part of the British leadership. Certainly, for the first time, of course, on September 4th, Britain's Royal Air Force Command launches its first attacks against Nazi warships in the Holy Godland bite off northwest Germany, but the government will not authorize raids on targets within Germany. So not yet. So I mean that's coming. So the Polish government. So here's more of the Wehrmacht entering Poland, and of course these 53 divisions, a lot of infantry, men on horseback, as well as numerous armored units with just tanks. These armored units can consist of tanks, and then you have infantry units with half-tracks as well. So a lot of those are armored, and then towing artillery as well from the rear. All of this is coming in. You'll even see pictures I have on here of men on motorcycles, German forces on motorcycles, bringing in with MG-34 machine guns, and these are mobile tactical units moving in. So, of course, September 6th, from the Eastern Front, the Polish government and High Command leave Warsaw and order their forces to withdraw to the line of Vistula and San rivers. Nazi troops make a dramatic advance that reaches beyond Lodz in Poland. They also seized Krakow in the south. So, and of course, this is the continuous movement in. Um, First, of course, part of the Wehrmacht. You're looking at what you see here are JN. These are JN-52 transport aircraft, and they are bringing in paratroopers. They're bringing in the use of paratroopers, the use of tanks, heavy artillery, mobile warfare, and air power all in conjunction has never been seen before. And Blitzkrieg is the name of it, lightning warfare. The German 10th Army, led by General Walter von Reichau, I'm trying to read that right, reaches the outskirts of Warsaw, the capital. General Wilhelm List's 14th Army reaches the San River around Przemysl, while General Heinz Guderian's tank corps reaches the Bug River to the east of Warsaw. So now already within 7 days they're on the outskirts of Warsaw. Some of the weapons being used: Stuka dive bombers. Stuka dive bombers reach in, take out Polish fighting power, anywhere from what little they have of an air force to infantry units, command units, fuel dumps, anything and everything. You can see here even the German Navy is moving in. They want to move into, of course, northern Poland, use the ports. Here, it's a lot to talk about in the short time. Here you have more German forces moving in, clearing a checkpoint. Here's Panzer I's moving in into Poland, and here we have some officers, and then of course you can see up top, looks like on the bottom picture here, you can see this one as well. Looks like the part of the bombing of Warsaw. These are just a collage amount of pictures that are taken from this invasion. Here we have, I'm not sure which unit it is. Here are German forces, light armored forces from Panzer I's to maybe some other tracked light vehicles coming in behind armor units or alongside them and moving in, and here they are parked on break. This is some of the pictures of taken in and around the combat during the invasion. Here's some more of these. Here are some of the Czech tanks and the some of the Panzer tanks, Panzer IIIs, and more. The heavy amount of armored forces going in is amazing. The Panzer IIs, Panzer IIIs, and some of the other types of I believe it's Type 38 tanks that the Czechs had, among other vehicles moving in on the line. So here, the light Panzer tanks moving in. So this is just some of the slideshows of the stuff that I've got. So on September 9th, a Polish counterattack is launched by 10 divisions, which gather around Kutno under General Tadeusz Kurdzeba. Some of these names. The attack over the Bzura River against Germany's 8th Army is the most effective Polish offensive of the campaign, but only achieves short-term success because then the Germans take it back. Of course, as I mentioned before in the last video, September 10th, Canada declares war. William Mackenzie King, our Prime Minister at the time, declares war on Germany. So, going into the end of September, 16th and 17th of September, Warsaw's defenders are encircled but refused to surrender until the 27th of September. Elements of Germany's 14th Army west of Lvov are still locked in battle, while other units advanced to join General Hans Guderian's units in action along the Bug River. So, and there's already so much other stuff going on, right? On the 17th of September, the British aircraft carrier Courageous is sunk by U-29 during anti-submarine patrol off of southwest Ireland. The aircraft carrier Ark Royal has managed to escape a similar attack just 3 days beforehand. The naval authorities act quickly and withdraw Britain's aircraft carriers from such duties to preserve these valuable vessels for other maritime roles. So here is, I believe it is Warsaw, and the heavy saturation bombing on the capital, certain parts of it are completely destroyed. Warsaw becomes certainly an epicenter later on in the war for certainly is the Warsaw Ghetto, and going into 41, the start of the final solution. Certainly the largest ghetto in Eastern Europe is the Warsaw Ghetto, and then you have the Lodz Ghetto. And there are many other areas which become a key central area in the history of the Holocaust as well. Okay. Of course, with the Polish forces mobilizing late and political considerations, they say they were hoping to have peace before this all ended. Certainly, this is just more information on the initial invasion. So on September 17th, 1939, the Soviet Union launches an attack and invades eastern Poland on September 17th, 1939. The last resistance ended on October 6th. The demarcation line for the partition of German and Soviet-occupied Poland was along the Bug River. So that's like I mentioned before, that's where the German forces stopped. Here, if you can see, you can see much of the Polish units here. These are Polish infantry units, and some of them have armored vehicles as well. 7 PT and other tanks. Some of the British design, the Renaults. A lot of the Polish army is infantry and chivalry, cavalry, men on horseback, bolt-action rifles, Mauser 38s, or similar to the Kar 38, Kar 98 rather. The Kar 98 K, which is the standard army rifle of the German army, it's a very similar type that the Polish have as well, but that's of course it's a futile action. It's futile in the amount of training the Polish have compared to the Wehrmacht forces. Here, as I mentioned, here are some of German troops pulling in. I mentioned the motorcycle crews. Mobile, accurate, and they're able to go into mud and many different areas. This is just one other way that German forces were able to move into Poland quickly, was mobile movements, but there was also many infantry units moving into Poland with hundreds of thousands of men, just on foot as well as on horseback, besides the heavy artillery and armored forces moving in. So September 17th to the 30th, September 17th to the 30th, in accordance with a secret clause in their 1939 pact with Germany, the Red Army invades. Little resistance is encountered on Poland's eastern border as the Polish army is fighting for its life in the west. So the Polish government, so far as the politics go, the Polish government and high command flee to Romania, only to be interned. A government in exile is formed, and many fighters escape to join the Allies, including Polish fighter pilots, which actually are able to flee to England, and they form what they call 303 Squadron, which they were essential in fighting in the Battle of Britain. And many of these guys that had surrendered or had, of course, had fled, some of them were captured, some of them had fled all the way to England to fight with the Hawker Hurricane. These squadrons, 303 Squadron, these Polish fighter pilots were fighting for the British Air Force, but also as for their government in exile. Poland is split into two zones of occupation divided by the Bug River. Germany has lost 10,572 troops, and the Soviet Union has lost 734 men killed in the campaign. Around 50,000 Poles are killed, and 750,000 are captured. So here we have, like I've shown you in the last video, what you have here is the encirclement, the Heer and Wehrmacht forces pushing down central and north. East Prussia, and of course next soon after and that's the area that would be taken over in Operation Barbarossa in 1941 would be the Russians. The Germans would take, with over 3 million men, eastward Lithuania and White Russian territory and Soviet territory. This is Soviet territory from the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact agreement. This is here where the Russians have come in from on the 17th of September. Here is some of the occupation. I believe that, I'm not sure where this is, Lodz or Warsaw. I think they do look like German forces, occupation forces are moving in. So here's the Polish army, in a sense, what they have. We all know what the Germans, in a sense, wear the M35 helmets, or eventually the M40 helmets and the evolved helmets. Polish army, 1939, 1945. One of them there you can see has got a 19 Browning automatic rifle with a 20-round magazine. That's an American-made weapon. So they do have a mixture of different weapons, and of course the Polish army is somewhat fueled as far as influx of money from the French government, from the French Allied support. That's over the months and years beforehand. So, while this is happening, of course, as far as in Romania, the local fascist group, the Iron Guard, assassinates Romanian Prime Minister Arman Călinescu. Sorry. So he is assassinated. So, the 29th of September, after occupying Poland, the Soviet Union concentrates on extending its control over the Baltic Sea region to safeguard against any German threat. During the next few weeks, it gains bases and signs mutual assistance agreements with Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Finland, however, will not agree to the Soviet Union's territorial demands and mobilizes its armed forces in October, as political dialogue fails to resolve the crisis. And then, of course, in 1940, the Russians, the Soviets, invade Finland. Here are some of the Polish troops. Not necessarily ill-equipped, ill-trained as far as tactics go, but yes, ill-equipped on the major scale, but individually, the soldiers have some of similar battlefield weapons that the Germans had, as far as individual grunt soldiers, privates and whatnot. So here they've got the, they bought, of course, here are the bolt-action rifles, Mauser, so exactly German weapons. Yeah, 5-round internal magazines. It's basically the same, or a direct copy of the Kar 98. In October 1939, Germany directly annexed former Polish territories along German eastern, of course, the Germans' eastern border, West Prussia, Poznan, Upper Silesia, and the former free city of Danzig. The remainder of German-occupied Poland includes the cities of Warsaw, Krakow, Radom, and Lublin. Was organized as, of course, this was organized as the so-called general government under a civilian governor-general. Nazi party lawyer Hans Frank, and I do remember reading about him. So he is now in charge of the general government. Nazi Germany occupied the remainder of Poland when it invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, June 22nd. Poland remained under German occupation. That's up until January 1945, when it was liberated by the Soviet Union. So here's the divide. And so here we have the general government, and here we have Soviet-occupied Poland. So this here will remain, this map will be completely accurate up until June 1941, and that would be June 22nd, when the largest German invasion of the war will take place, called Operation Barbarossa, with over 3 million men. And that's what will eventually end Nazi Germany as a whole, as a two-front war. Here we go. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.